over the last so many decades, we've been used to classroom teaching. So, what, according to you, are the I mean, we are forced into online teaching. So, what, according to you, are the advantages or disadvantages of this whole school coming home concept? We'll start with Sujata, madam. Please unmute yourself, and then you can answer, and then we'll go to Saloni.
Namaste everyone. Good evening. And thank you, ma'am, for inviting me over for this session. In fact, it's my pleasure to be with such esteemed people on the panel and also meeting up with so many people. Actually, on a lighter vein, years ago, we used to have debates. What if, we have to resort to this kind of virtual teaching? Very soon, I think it will switch over, that pedagogy will switch over to, online platform. And we used to have debates and discussions in the staff rooms and informal meetings with the coordinators. And we never knew that this will happen so soon. Well, it caught us totally unaware. But I must say that the entire education, the world of education was taken by storm, because this is something we can't stop. Children must go on, they must be kept engaged. So that was the first thought that came to us when this shutdown, lockdown happened. Now, how are we going to do this? The challenge is thrown at us on our faces. Now, it's up to us educators, the management, teachers first to resolve this and then get across to the children and the parents. Well, every school, I think, kudos to them. They have taken up the challenge, and across Bangalore, across India, across the world, educators have taken this challenge and they've gone ahead. But then to begin with, right from the management, the problem began. And then now we find that online teaching, like, I don't know what advantage it has. Only thing I can say is that the lessons are being done with online teaching and imparted. Knowledge is being imparted, and the teachers have gained new knowledge. Like you say, they have kind of entered the new normal world of education, and they have been able to find out day after day new techniques and strategies in education, because the entire lesson planning has changed now. They can't resort to the old lesson planning method. The strategies have changed now. But I don't know, I must really appreciate the teachers for working through the vacation, and they found their own methodologies, and there it is. They have made their plans and they're able to put it across. We are only 1 week into online teaching, but so far, at the end of the day, there are reviews and glitches are there. We can't say everything is hunky-dory and going fine, but we find that day after day, we are trying to improve upon it, and we have been partially successful in this. Yes, it's going.
Right. Right. Thank you, ma'am. Saloni, ma'am, what would you have to say as a section coordinator, and having now, and you're of course from Mumbai. So, what do you feel now about this whole situation?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Like we say school in the backyard, I would say in Mumbai, we would probably say school from my 2 BHK. Backyard obviously in Bombay is a dream. So, but let me tell you, there are a lot of benefits that we see as Avalon Heights. We've been into almost 6 weeks of online schooling now, and honestly, it's been a beautiful ride. And this is one way, like Sujata ma'am also mentioned, that it has pushed us as teachers, as a teaching fraternity, it has pushed us to go beyond our comfort zones. So as teachers, we are definitely showing a big lesson to our children to go beyond our comfort zones. A lot of us were so used to, we were used to chalkboard teaching, and we would, experiment sometimes, but not like this. So this has pushed us to experiment and to go beyond our comfort zone and to learn things that we actually hadn't thought we would. So, and it is another benefit for this is that this is in a situation like this when we're all locked down. It's like a hop, skip, jump from kitchen to class. So, okay, you quickly finish this and you enter your classroom. So you're kind of managing. And as women, like they say, most of the teaching fraternity is women. We are used to balance the household and our jobs. And this is giving us one platform that we're keeping our passions alive. And I think we're keeping ourselves alive. So we as teachers are really thankful that we've got this platform where we are able to connect with our children. Believe me, like one of my Hindi teachers said, कि मैम ये बिंदी बर्तन से बिंदी का सफर तय करने में बहुत मजा आता है. You know, कि आप you're just doing your things and you suddenly go back into the class. Another benefit that we see of online teaching is that maybe fortunately for teachers, but unfortunately for children, that there is a lot of time that we see is utilized constructively. So children are pretty more focused and more accountable when they are in the setup of their home. And I think they are under the supervision of their parents, so they are more attentive. They are more the lot of fun that used to happen in the class, where one comment from someone would just take away the focus from everywhere. So that somehow is seized, and we are able to accomplish our learning targets pretty well. So those are definitely the benefits that we see of online teaching, and we are really exploring beautiful tools that are available online. The quizzes, of games that children are playing, and there's a lot of excitement. In fact, our grade 1, grade 2 children have gotten used to so many tools that they are really enjoying it. Having said that, there are disadvantages too. We are missing the personal touch that we would have with our children. So that definitely is a miss. And yes, for children, it's not easy. A lot of times we tell our children that I know you come to school mainly to have fun, to meet your friends. And this is not there happening right now for them. So as parents, I think we need to understand this, that for children, it's a double lockdown, like one from COVID and one from parents. So they are under a double lockdown. They can't really go meet their friends. They can't socialize. They can't do a lot of things that they were used to. So I think as parents, we need to understand that and look at it as a phase of, a new phase where we need to show our patience and our calm and set a happy environment at home. So it's a beautiful situation that we're in, and we are trying to make the best out of it, I would say.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, ma'am. I will now move to our parent, Mrs. Buddha, who's there. As a parent, ma'am, and what are your views on this? Because you are going to be seeing your children do this, and so what if it has already started in your case? What are the changes that you've seen? And in case it's not started, what are you anticipating?
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure and an honor being here with such esteemed and extremely experienced people. I look forward to gaining some knowledge and leaving the webinar by the time I'm out of here. As a parent, we've already, from Podar International, we have already had a month of April with online classes. And honestly speaking, it has its advantages as well as disadvantages. The first part is the kids don't really have to waste time traveling to school. It's like you mentioned earlier, it's just waking up, getting ready and sitting in front of their iPads or laptops or whatever it is. Secondly, they're not missing out on any academic curriculum just because they're locked down due to this pandemic. They are going very smoothly forward with their curriculum, and by the time we physically enter school, I think they'll be at par with what they have been done as a regular year. Secondly, there are interactions within the students. There is equal participation from the kids through online classes when the teacher asks every child to participate, and the class goes on very smoothly. But on the same hand, there are no personal touch between the teacher and the student. An average student would definitely be able to go about with his regular class on an online basis, but kids with special needs or learning difficulties would face difficulties when there are virtual learning classes going on, online classes. It's not so comfortable because the presence of the teacher physically matters much to such kids. And the teacher is able to gauge how much the child is understanding or what kind of technique is necessary for the child to finish a particular module. So here, there's a small hitch which needs to be taken a little more in detail by the teachers, by the parents. And again, here, parents have to work hand in glove with teachers. It is a parent's responsibility to be actively around during online sessions, because a physical presence of someone who can guide them through the session is very must, especially for primary kids. So that is what
Right.
I
Yeah,
feel.
thank you, ma'am. Coming now to Madam Desai, I have a question for you both as an educationist and a psychologist. And my question is that, in your vast experience of working with children, do you feel, this whole new thing of school coming home, are they going to be sort of enjoying this? Or do you think they're going to look at it, oh, my holiday has been taken away and I've been punished by, being made to study at home?
Okay, so Avinash, both you and I, we've been having some very lively discussions over the past. I mean, not just with relation to the webinar, but I think you and I have been having a lot of discussions and we've been laughing over, what kids are doing at home, right? So I think it's a mix of both, right? I mean, we're talking about children, and if children are children, then, well, it's the mischief and the naughtiness, which is all a part of their life and growth. And so this situation is also new to them, and I'm sure that they are exploring. I find, in fact, because we're doing a lot of online therapy, Avinash, as I've been speaking to you. And in fact, what we find is that the kids, because these kids are digital natives, they're not digital migrants like us, right? So they are very savvy at it. And they are, in fact, really enjoying this interaction. Okay, this was something which was not really expected on such a basis. So they are actually enjoying navigating their way through the different tools, like Saloni said. And so I think the receivers, the beneficiaries, that is these children, are enjoying the process. Okay, it's something new. They're not worried about exploring a new thing. So I think the kids are enjoying it. But again, I think what Ghazala said is something very true, and I hope that she will be comfortable enough to share more about her experiences as a parent, where children with certain special education needs, like learning difficulties, etc., will find it and are finding it a little difficult to get the kind of attention and physical connection that the teachers can give, and which makes a big difference. I think what's really important in today's situation, Avinash, is that until now, the parents were one part of the triangle, but they were in the background on a daily basis. Now, on a daily basis, the parent has become a very visible and present connection as a part of this triangle of the teacher, student, and the parent. So the parent, apart from the school moving into the home, I think the parent has also moved into the school. And I think that's something which is going to make a big difference in the equation right now for as long as it lasts. Yep.
Right. Well, Madam Sujata, coming to you, I mean, since you have a whole gamut of teachers under you, all from different subjects, and I mean, I know I was discussing with Madam Desai that certain subjects is very beautiful to teach online, and certain subjects it can be little difficult, to teach online. So have you had any of your teachers who come to you and said that, and as we say in Hindi, कि हमारा subject तो online नहीं पढ़ा सकते, they'll come and say we are not able to teach our subject online. So have you had any teachers who said, our subject is such that we need a blackboard, we need a classroom, we can't really substitute it with an online medium? What are your views?
So far, negative kind of approach or remark from any of them. Probably there was very less reaction time, because it was just told to them that, come on, now we have to switch on to online classes. So I'm happy to tell you, they got into groups, they had their own meetings, faculty-wise and section-wise, and decided. And if one got a blackboard from somewhere, they would immediately network and say, listen, this thing is available here and please procure one for yourself. And that way they themselves sorted out their problems, and they managed to create a little niche for themselves, a quiet corner for themselves where they could teach from. And yes, like I said, music is, the teachers found it very easy because they said they could connect with the children. Of course, PE was a challenge, some of them, but then they found means of making videos and links and demonstrating, and somehow they're all ready with those videos so they can demonstrate. There could be a disadvantage for certain subjects, like if it's a science practical. Then the teacher has to innovate, improvise, and also ensure that the children have those improvised apparatus at home. We can't tell the parent, now get a round bottom flask or a flat bottom flask, or get this apparatus for chemistry or this for a microscope for biology. Definitely not. So the teachers must choose such topics. First of all, we are not adhering to the sequence of curriculum in the textbook. This discussion happened much in April itself. The lockdown began. We said, now let's not adhere to the sequence of the topics. Please choose topics that will be simpler for you to actually put forth, as well as the children to take on, grasp. So that way they've chosen topics where it will be simpler for them to put across, and also make it more interactive. Of course, interactive is totally an understatement, because it is difficult actually.
Right.
Because you don't know how many of them are really listening, though we have the videos and we say participants must come online. But then they've been choosing topics which will be easier to put across, and interesting ones, and make their own ways of making it interesting. So
Right.
that is that. And also, we are using different platforms. One
Right.
we're using for taking the lessons on, but that doesn't ensure the assignments and turn-ins. So we've chosen another platform which will help us to get the assignments back from the children and responses from the children, and also the teachers keep themselves motivated constantly by discussions with their faculty. A lot of
Right.
sharing of material happens. So somewhere the difficulty level of teachers has come down, because one person's creativity, like I say, crisis creates creativity also. So
Right.
sometimes, yes.
Right. Right.
So what happens is they share. One teacher embarks on something new, immediately she shares with the others. So actually it's longer hours than school for them, because after the regular winding up after 5 periods, 6 periods, they have a lot of meetings, review meetings and sharing happening. So the difficulty is slowly scaled down and the teachers are better prepared. But all the time as a principal, I have to ensure, please don't expect perfection in your class. There
Right.
will be teething problems. You can't expect a perfect class at all. And that is where you could use your students' expertise. Because like ma'am said, they're digital natives. We are only immigrants. And so those children can help you somewhere to help us sort out our problems too. They'll be only willing, especially the seniors. I won't say not juniors, junior also very much. Ma'am, why can't we do it this way? Or, they will share ideas too. So we are ironing out. I'm not saying there are no issues. It will take some time, I'm sure.
Right, right. Moving on to Saloni, ma'am, since now as parents are also into the equation, meaning this is happening at home, so you don't know if it's the child alone who's seeing you, but it's also the parent who's seeing you. So, have any of your teachers, said that, we feel a little worried, because now, I mean, in the school, in the classroom, you would have full control over all the students. Now, you have parents who are going to see you and they'll say, the teacher didn't teach this properly or didn't teach that properly. And then there'll be a barrage of complaints that will probably come to the school, because the parent has had a chance to see how your teachers are teaching. So do you think that puts an added pressure on your teachers?
Definitely, this question of parents being there with children is definitely there, and you can't ignore it. So the only thing for us at school, we've been trying to communicate with the parents also very regularly, because parents need to be kept in the loop. They need to understand that teachers are also doing this for the first time, and so we've been trying to maintain a very regular communication with the parents, and we've been trying to ensure that teachers' lessons are really vetted very properly. So we've done a lot of intensive training with teachers on to using these tools, and also onto making sure that the lessons have enough interaction and they're not just a class where a teacher talks for good 40 minutes and it goes on. In fact, that's the reason that why we also started a flipped classroom model is we're not having children to sit in the front of the screen for 5-6 hours every day. So we've had a model where they sit for about 2 hours in a day, and teachers send them modules like a flipped classroom where we are sending them resource which is either made by the teacher or from the resource from the web, and children go through it at their pace. Children go through it, and then when they have a contact session with the teacher, they definitely have an interaction which is far above from them being at level 0. So we are trying to maintain. Our department heads are keeping a very close watch on the lessons. So we are trying to maintain quality for sure. At the same time, I cannot deny that there are times that we do expect you do bloopers and parents can watch it. But I'm sure parents, as mature adults, do understand that You know, sometimes I may not be this bad in a regular class, but being online makes me really nervous. So we do expect parents to understand that, which I can see that parents are. In fact, last week we've started our junior senior also, and for junior senior it's difficult to make them sit in front of the screen. So obviously parents are sitting besides them, and you can understand. So, but everybody is appreciating the fact that we are trying our level best to make sure the children are engaged. You know, so we are also trying to make sure that lessons are planned. In fact, last week we had an open day with grade 10 parents on Zoom. So we were just saying that, okay, we are meeting the parents for the first time on an open day now. And parents did appreciate the fact that a lot of teachers are starting to begin their classes with some energizers, with icebreakers, to just make children out of the, regular mode and take them as close to the regular classroom scenario as possible.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. I move to our parent, Mrs. Buddha, and I have two important questions for you. And as a
Avinash, if I may interrupt,
Yes.
if I may interrupt, there are also some wonderful questions coming up on
I'm
chat.
taking them up, ma'am. I'm taking them up, ma'am.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
So my question to Mrs. Buddha is that as a parent, when you have children at home who are going to be online, what techniques do you use to see that they don't get distracted? Because see, on one hand, they have the online class going on, then you're cooking in the kitchen, so there's a nice aroma of food which is coming from there, and at the same time they may have their favorite game also lying next to them. So how do you make sure that they're not distracted? As a parent, I mean, what do you think is what you would do?
First, I make it a point, I lock them up in a room with a very disciplined and very formal atmosphere, as good as their classroom. So I on and off keep watching them when they're doing their classes. When there are online classes going on, I'm a little more assured, because they don't have any chances of getting distracted then. They have their videos on, they are asked questions in the middle. So they have to be on their toes, they cannot get distracted then. Yeah, offline sessions, they are bound to leave their place and move about the house, watching everybody, all other family members, asking for a munch or just taking a small break or something like that. Offline sessions, you really have to be careful, but online sessions go on smoothly. I make it a point that they're well fed and they're very fresh when they've started their class, so that they don't need a break before 2 hours before they finish their online session.
Right.
That's how it is.
Okay, ma'am, I want you to answer in yes or no. This is again for you only. Do you think children are happier and learning better when they are at home?
They are no doubt happier.
Yes.
But when it comes to learning, like I earlier mentioned, with regular average school kids, they don't face any problems. They are as comfortable as they would be in a physical class. But kids with special education needs or with learning difficulties are facing challenges here. They need extra help, they need extra assistance, which of course the special educators, the teachers, as well as the parents should work in coordination and help them out with, like I am doing with my child, with the help of the special educators at Drishti, with the help of their school teachers, and with guidance from Smita ma'am.
Right.
So I have a child who is facing learning difficulties. The other child is absolutely average, doesn't need any extra assistance. So I have to handle both and I have to deal with both. I can very clearly see how one is comfortable and how the other one is not comfortable in the same scenario.
Right. Well, my question now to Madam Desai is first two quick questions. One is, I think parents, teachers, everyone is finding it little difficult with this online approach. So how compassionate do you think parents need to be with children and understand that children are also going to probably have difficulty learning online. They're not going to pick up online very fast. So that is my first question to you. And my second question to you is, are we sweeping the increased screen time under the carpet? So
Yes.
What do you want to say? Yeah.
Right. So I will address the first question. Should parents be more compassionate with the children, etc.? I think I feel that this is a new situation for everyone. Parents, children, teachers. I think there is a great need for compassion also, because why has this scenario come about? There is a situation out there which is a very tough medical and health related issue, which is causing adults a lot of anxiety, Due to the health and medical situation, there are financial crises which so many adults are having to deal with. And therefore, I think the parents themselves also need support and help. Having said that, yes, when the children are studying at home, I think what's required is spending that time that we are now forced together. I think, Avinash, if we spend that time bonding together, what we had spoken about in one of our first webinar, okay?
Right.
If we spend that time bonding together, we'll find that there is compassion from one person to another. If we have some kind of counseling sessions, psychoeducation sessions conducted at school for the parents, I think it will create a very good line of connection. I think that the need of the hour is to be able to connect to each other, because finally we are all working for the benefit of the child. So there's compassion required all over, not only from the parent to the child, is my thought and feeling. The second question, sweeping screen time under the carpet. Well, what I would say is that, and this is something I read in a research study also being done by the team which works with children and adolescents at Johns Hopkins University in the US. And what they said is that right now we are in a situation where we do not have much of a choice, right? There is a certain amount of screen time that is actually now proving to be helpful, correct? Yes, in the past we said cut down on screen time because we want to look at the type of screen time, right? Right now, the type of screen time is that we're using it to dispense education and knowledge. We have no other channel, right? And therefore, we need to focus on what the situation is, understand that it will be fairly temporary in nature, and that this is a time to focus on the type of screen time rather than the quantum of screen time that is being used.
Right, ma'am. Well, Sujata ma'am, in the classroom generally, when the teacher is there and there's one boy who's distracted, let's say his name is Avinash. So, they will, immediately they will say, Avinash, look here, what are you looking there? Or what are you doing there? And immediately I will look. So how do you think the teachers can have collaborative participation, of all the students in an online thing, or how will they keep an eye on, whether, because looking at so many screens at the same time, how will they, know whether one child is distracted or not?
This is one of the greatest challenges of online teaching, because in a classroom, that personal touch, the body language of a child, especially the teacher who knows her children very well, knows the pulse of the class, a non-verbal communication, even a child kind of yawns, the child is getting bored, or, you can see that unconvinced look on the child's face that, no, I haven't got this lesson or this concept, and the teacher quickly reassures and repeats. Now, these are the major disadvantage of online teaching. The teacher doesn't get to know what percentage of a class has grasped the subject or topic, and how many of them have understood, not understood, or put their heads down. So these things, these are huge challenges to surmount. However, we have developed a model of certain rewards also in the form of internal assessment, where there is interaction and quick questioning within the 40-minute period or 45-minute period, where a teacher must be well prepared beforehand with certain questions and keep shooting, because she knows, at least she knows her class, she knows that this many students are likely to be more distracted than the others. Whereas these front benchers will always be front benchers who are willing to listen anywhere. But like you said, the mischievous lot, actually they are the ones, I must say, are a real treat to have in the class, because they are the live wires of the class.
Right.
They bring in energy into the class. And these children, we know, so you keep shooting questions to ensure that they are listening, make it interactive, and they will pop up and immediately make sure they're listening. And also you have an internal assessment format where certain amount of points are attributed to class response. Okay,
Right.
whether it helped to a great deal or not, no, but we have it in place. The whole format of the internal assessment has changed, no? It is more of class response and how much they're able to follow up the lesson, and even for the next day coming prepared. So all this ensures that a large majority of the class is coming prepared with the class. That's all we can work on right now. And of course, the parental support is absolutely required. A large onus is shifted on their shoulders, where they also know that the teacher will expect the child to come prepared with the topic the next day, and see that the child, there should not be a helicopter parenting happening. Yet they must make sure that the child is focusing for some time, and breaks are a must between sessions, to make sure the child has that free movement, walk around, come back, on even, try to exercise a bit, or maybe dribble the ball for 10 minutes there and then come back, so the child is revitalized and re-energized. But this is a major problem that you mentioned, which we have to work out means and ways of making it as interactive as possible, and taking back from the child is important every now and then, not just monologues happening in session. Yes.
Right, ma'am. Saloni ma'am, since you again, run a whole section. Now I'm coming to a very special group, that is a kindergarten group between 2 to 5 years of age. I think one of the key issues that there is a divide. There is on one part the parent feels, oh, my child is not going to be educated now, and what will happen, because it's the formative years. So they're very happy that online classes happen. And then on one hand, we have a group of parents who feel, is it right for children between the age of 2 and 5 to be online? How long? Kindergarten had to be fun, and you had to interact, rather than this whole online medium. So, and you said for senior and junior, and you all have already started some classes. So, so what is your, whole take? Because you'll always have a group of parents who say the child is too small and can't sit, and, it's unfair. And then you'll have a group who says, but, he won't learn basics, and a year is going and he'll be 1 year behind. So what is your take on this whole online issue with regard to kindergarten?
Yeah, there's always a very fine divide where some parents believe, we should have or we should not have. But I think, what is best is, like Smita ma'am said, that you have to see what you can do best in the situation. So we don't want them to be completely off. At the same time, you may not really want them to be tied in a schedule where it's, everyday class. So like we've started for kindergarten, but for beginning only thrice a week. So they have an hour class where they just get used to sit and listen to the teacher. They can have a, interaction with their teacher. And like pre-primary teachers say that they have actually competition with Peppa Pig in the videos. So obviously they have to really be very interactive. But the key in pre-primary sessions is that you really have to take time. In regular school also, pre-primary kids take about good. Sometimes some of them are perpetually sitting for a month outside the classroom to really get before they actually enter. So this is a different scenario. So as parents, as teachers, we all need to understand that you need to give them time. Eventually, we do hope that they will all get used to this a little, and you will have to get them just acquainted with a fair bit of little things. See, life doesn't stop. They don't learn for a year. Actually, nothing will stop. It's just that to just make sure that they're constructively occupied and they can meet their teachers. Like our pre-primary kids were super thrilled to see their aunties. So they were super thrilled to see their aunties, and they're trying, and some of them have learned how to use the chat box also. So they're responding. But it's just that we have to give them their own space and their own time, because they'll have their own pace, their moods, and you have to respect that. So in senior classes, you can demand attention, but in these cases, you can't demand attention. You just have to wait. And they are the kings and queens of their moods. So you have to respect that.
Right. Mrs. Buddha, I'll come to you. I'll go to Mrs. Madam Desai first. Madam, there has been a huge barrage of questions asking about, special ed. So, I know my special educators, I think 1 or 2 of them are attending. I can see Alicia Lalji, who's here, she works with me. She has been doing remedial sessions online. I know y'all are also doing it. So I think maybe a quick 2-minute viewpoint on what you feel about remedial and special ed online. Yeah.
Sure. So, Avinash, we can, and to answer all the questions that have come up, on chat, let's look at serving the child with special education needs. How are we going to do it on the online classroom? And then, of course, how might we do it as special educators in terms of remedial instruction? So, in fact, just on Monday, Avinash, I had held a workshop on managing diversity in the virtual classroom. Okay. And there are 2-3 things which I can just quickly mention so that people on this group take away. One is that what the teacher can do in the classroom is, in a virtual classroom, of course, is that she can break up the classroom into breakout rooms. Okay, and therefore those children who might require some kind of individualized instruction or need some special help can be put into the breakout rooms. But you may not place them alone. You can also use the concept of having a peer buddy. Okay, so those children who might otherwise have been helpers in the school, helpers in your classroom, can also be paired with these children with special needs, and they can be put into separate breakout rooms. Now, what are these separate breakout rooms helping us do? It is helping us what we call differentiate instruction. So let's say if it is a class which is on water, okay? So if we are introducing the chapter on water, it can be introduced in a slightly different way for the breakout room where there are children with special education needs. It can be done in a more simpler way. There can be more simpler videos which are being shown. They can be given different tasks to do, which are, very, very hands-on. Whereas, for the rest of the class, you might be using a slightly more complex task analysis. Okay. So one is a breakout rooms. The other is the peer buddies. The third thing that can be done is that for these children, you can very actively involve the parents, right? Because the parents are able to give them immediate support. Parents know how their child works inside out, okay? And therefore, the parent can be your active teacher's helper right there, and you can liaison with the parent once classes are over. Now, when we're working with special education needs, Avinash, there is going to have to be some extra time that the teachers will have to give at least a couple of times in the week, okay? And for that, there can be separate small groups which are being held after the regular school time. Now, because we are cutting down on school time, this time is allowing the teachers to be able to do that. So that is that little extra stretch that teachers and the schools are going to have to do. So these are the 2 or 3 things I can give as a takeaway for online virtual, for your virtual classes. As far as remedial instruction is concerned from a therapist point of view, we've been doing this very successfully, like I've been speaking to you. In fact, we had been doing these online therapies since a while, but because, we've got kids coming from far or different parts of the country, but, we were also not doing it in a big way because, hey, the personal connection is the best, right? However, that gave us a little added advantage in terms of just quickly transferring from the offline to the online. And we have been doing remedial instruction, online therapy with a number of kids. We were working with about 25 kids over the summer, Avinash, and we've been able to achieve all the goals with them that we planned to, okay? So we used different things. We used, of course, a face-to-face, the video conferencing. We used a lot of screen sharing. We gave activities which the parent and child can do with us at home, and we can interact. We worked with children with autism. So we gave a lot of home-based stuff to be done. The parents of children with autism have sent us videos, photographs as to how children have been engaged in the chores of daily functioning. So these are all the different things that we have been able to do. No doubt glitches here and there, but I think overall, even my head of special education needs, Ms. Darshika would be on this. She was just reporting to me yesterday how it's been really moving very smoothly. So in that sense, I'm really happy that we've been able to reach out to these kids. And we've also been doing counseling therapy, Avinash. Counseling therapy, in fact, has been a little easier with the talk therapy exercises, etc., than remedial, but pretty good to go.
Right. Well, coming to Mrs. Buddha, parent, I have a parenting question to you. And, sometimes it can happen, when you have this online classes, that after being online for 3 hours or 4 hours, the child will say, Ki Mama, abhi Marathi class hai, I don't want to attend. And, can I just switch it off and go off and whatever? Or aap dusre auntie se notes le lo, and that can happen. So one is, what would be your approach in that case? And secondly is, if the child says now 5 days a week I have attended, I don't want to attend one day, see, in physical school we tell him nahi jana hi hai, taiyar ho jao, and they go. Here they are at home, so the attendance, or what if you, as you said, I keep them in a locked room under supervision. So what if you go off and come back and find that they are sleeping and the computer is on, so then what would be your approach in that situation?
Fortunately for me here, their father as well as their uncle, both are working from home. And throughout the day, they have their meetings, they have their online sessions as well. So it's like both uncle, dad, and both the kids are sitting in one room with a very formal kind of an atmosphere. And
So you
since
locked
they,
your entire family in one room. That means then for them, so that yeah, okay, right.
so they take their inspiration from both their uncle and their father, and when they see them working all the time and doing so much of other activities that are professionally required, and they do it with the dedication that is required when they would have been in office personally. So they take it forward from them, and they have never ever complained that we don't. Yeah, of course, Saturday Sundays when they have their PE sessions, they want to wake up late and not join the PE class. But then I try to explain to them how physical activity is a must. And then we as a family behind the camera did the physical education class with them. They were happy enough to wake up on Saturday, Sundays and also do that class. So that there hasn't been any issues. And other than that, when the class is over, they have a lot of other entertainment things coming up, they know. So they are willing to give in that many hours for their schooling. They are okay with it.
Right. Coming to Sujata ma'am, I wanted to ask you that now the fact that, this whole online schooling has come, and, we have students who are now getting very comfortable with this. Can it happen that, afterwards when school actually starts, they'll say, online hi rakho, kyun, why should we go, to school? We are very happy with this online thing. Once a week we'll go. If we have any difficulties, we'll meet the teacher. Otherwise, let it happen. See, because a very simple thing like a school bench versus a nice chair in your house where you're sitting, and you can go use your own bathroom, have a little bit of a cold drink, come back in 2 minutes. I mean, so many advantages versus sitting in school under constant supervision. So what do you think will happen? Will the students say no, we want online only? Will that happen?
We actually keep wondering about that and anticipating it could happen to not only among students but maybe teachers too have got to the comfort zone.
Particularly teachers who are traveling from far away, they may say rather than I go all the way traveling, I might as well do anything from home. Yeah.
It's so convenient. But then definitely, how it is with children. What they are really missing right now, as far as they can get, is their social life at school. That's hit very bad. Their peer interactions, their interpersonal skills, and that life is completely gone. And I'm sure once they realize they're going to meet their friends and their teachers, and Dr. Desai knows our school, it's more like a family. It's a at least for me, I can speak that they will come running to school because they're longing to meet up with their teachers and of course their friends and get back that social life, because they are missing it tremendously. I know it's okay for certain days, but I'm sure they're looking forward to coming back too. They must have had their fun with online, but the fun back to school is much more, I'm sure. I'm quite confident my children want to come back and meet the teachers.
I think teachers also look forward to being in the staff room, with other teachers and discussing and talking, which probably they're also missing out on, I think definitely that's there. Okay, coming to Saloni ma'am, there's a huge debate, on one hand that, there is this whole pandemic going on and COVID is going on, and here we are bombarding children with education, online. Should we use this online thing to teach them life skills, disaster preparedness, and how to handle a pandemic, rather than teach them geography? And like I remember, I mean, one of the children in my son's class said, yahan the whole world is dying and I'm having to learn about equatorial forests, for no reason. So this is how children think. And they said, why can't they tell us about corona, and why can't they tell us about things which are actually happening? And I had another child who told me that I have to learn about Babur and Akbar, they're all dead and gone. I want to learn about modern history. So so do you think that it's right, it's wrong? What is your take? I mean, education is needed, I'm not saying that, but should life skills and other things be focused on more, empathy and all, through this online medium, and then we go back to education once school starts? Or do you think a mix of both?
See, definitely, the whole reason that we started education online classes is because we need a mix of both. So we have also started some recreation classes for our children where They're actually having a session on photography. They are doing a drama skills. They're also doing life lessons. So they're having workshop where it's pretty much fun. A lot of activity-based workshops on peer pressure, on self-esteem. So they're doing those sessions as well. And regarding what's going on in the current life, so it's very important, imperative, in fact, like a geography teacher today's class had to include Nisarg in her geography lesson. She had to make a video and talk about it. Similarly, a maths teacher is using the COVID status, across country to teach them and to make it as real as possible. You can't close your eyes on it, but you have to say that, okay, this is it, and let's see how we can use it. And history is, this question for history always remains, that why are we learning about people who are dead and gone? So that, I think, will always remain there.
Right.
Having said that, I think when you relate your lessons to what's going on currently, it just makes it more relatable, and then it's learning. It's short learning that happens.
Right. One more question to you, Saloni ma'am. There's been a teacher who's written in that Sanskrit is a difficult subject to teach online. I don't know, what would be your take on that? I mean,
yeah. So when we were doing a lot of, teacher training, so teachers were sharing a lot of tools, a lot of websites, a lot of quiz sites that are available. So our Hindi and maths teachers were most apprehensive because none of them support Hindi typing and all that. And even if they do, even if teachers manage to do it somehow, children don't know how to type it in Hindi. Similarly, we had issues with maths as well. So it's not easy to write a fx square and draw a matrice and all that. So these were technical issues that we were facing. The only thing we can do in these cases is, like for Hindi also, now we've got a workaround. We have actually made a small module to teach children also how to do Google translation from English to Hindi. So they're learning to type along with our teachers, so that they can also use these tools. So they're just making way. So if I have to do a match the following exercise in Hindi, they are taking images to match it. So okay, you convey it through images. And where you are learning, for example, if I'm even for Sanskrit, if I'm unless I'm looking at the spellings as the learning outcome, if I'm just learning at capturing, okay, what was the main characteristic strength of that person, then I can let them type in English. I mean, I would understand that they've got the point. As far as long as I'm not looking at spellings and I'm not looking at pure language, then there are restraints which we need to work around. Otherwise, you can find solutions to these things.
Sure.
Avinash, can I add a little bit about this, because I can understand the concerns of the Sanskrit, Hindi, Marathi, whatever. So what I also read, because this is also happening, like let's say if a Spanish is being taught or a French is being taught across the world. So a couple of ideas which I read about and which one can try out is actually what Saloni was talking about in terms of the flipped classroom. Okay, so if we're doing the flipped classroom where actually, whatever, if there is some amount of reading material in terms of Hindi, Marathi, Sanskrit that is being done at home, okay, and then the online classes need not be something which has to be typed out, which has to be put up. It can be a lot of verbal interaction. There can be things like a little bit of, activities. These can be planned. Kids can be asked to do something, make something and display it. Okay, so let's say if the topic is on kite flying, okay, can kids be actually preparing the kite and then talking about it or showing how to do certain things, okay, stuff like that. So the flipped classroom for languages is something that I've been reading about. Okay, and the other thing which I wanted to bring to other thing that I've been reading about is for these kindergarten children, which I wanted to talk at that time. And that is that when we're talking about kindergarten children, their interaction, screen time, etc., what many school districts have been doing is actually having sessions with the parents, okay, parents of the kindergarten children, and actually being talking to them about how things can be done at home. Because it's a formative years and children are actually, the home is where the children are going to learn so much, right? So in fact, more of the education classes with the parents of the kindergarten children, and then having them do a lot of things at home with the child in a very flexible and an unstructured way. So I just wanted to share these couple of
Right. Coming to our parent, Mrs. Buddha, I have a question for you. That the fact that now that the school has come home. See, earlier, and I'm a parent myself, so I empathize with this. So the thing is that, see, earlier we would hardly know or see the teacher, who was there. So we would only hear from our children that, ye teacher aise hai, this teacher is like that teacher is like that. Now we are actually seeing all the teachers because they are, so do you think this online education has brought out a whole new vista for parent-teacher collaboration, which wasn't there earlier? So do you think that, they, apart from the children being involved in online education, if maybe once a week the teachers and parents have a small, Zoom session, it will also enhance the value of this online education, because you will be able to tell them the difficulties children are facing. Teachers may be able to tell you the difficulties they are facing, and you may be the mediator, between them and work.
Very true, very true. Initially also, I've always felt teachers and parents should always work hand in hand, because parents are able to understand their child. There are certain insights that the teachers have about the child, and if they interact amongst themselves, they know everything and they can come up with best ideas to help the child with. So definitely online sessions will need more interaction with amongst parents and teachers, because there are so many hurdles, so many challenges that the child has to face because of online sessions, not only in terms of connectivity, but also in terms of understanding the content. Because what has been taught is from the other side of the camera. And there are certain PPTs or certain presentations or videos that are displayed, which not necessarily the child follows the exact flow. So until and unless the parent is able to get through to the point, tell the teacher whether the child is understood to what extent or what could make it better, and whether if the teacher is able to communicate with the parent as to how the parent can be helpful in that particular scenario, it is definitely going to be the best way out.
Right.
Vinesh, add to that,
Yes.
as a parent, I think that collaboration is really important, because now, like we discovered, we've been maintaining a very regular communication with the parent with respect to mails right now. So if a child wasn't there in my session today, I will send a mail to the parent same day just to verify whether the parent is aware or not. So we did discover that, with some of the senior children, that according to the parent, they were very much there in their room studying from 9 to 12. However, we never saw them. They were not in the class. The
They
child,
were on some other side.
yes, they were on some other side. So they are sitting with the laptop on, and maybe everything is on. But so as a parent, they might feel. So the moment we communicated with each other, we figured out, the parents said, okay, I'm going to take a watch, and I'm going to make sure that I take a few rounds in and around. We really don't expect parents to sit there throughout, but definitely keeping a careful watch, because children know technology much more than any one of us.
Very true, very
That's
true.
very important, that we should be communicating with each other. Similarly for assignments, so we're sending regular mails to our parents if I've sent something and a child hasn't responded back. So I think this has given us a very good platform. Parents are very happy because now they know what's happening and they can actually pitch in at the right moment. Otherwise, they always wait for the open day to happen and then they would know
It's too late.
and what's out. So this is like a very regular feedback that's happening with the parent, which is helping, I think, teachers and the parents a lot.
Right. Sujata ma'am, coming to you, I mean, I assume the strengths of schools are the same, whether it is Bangalore or Mumbai. And over here, we have many schools that have, 50 and 60 students in a classroom. So I assume it is similar over there also. But what I want to know is, in an online session, so when you have 50 or 60 students attending, it may become sometimes difficult for the teacher to manage. So do you think, I know the teacher would have to take the lesson twice, but do you think that, having lower strengths would enhance the efficacy of an online session?
Absolutely. And I must say, I'm fortunate to be in one of those schools where 30 is the maximum strength. That's Ishugraha, because we follow the Montessori system and we can't, especially at the lower classes, we can't afford to have such large numbers with personalized teaching and learning. But like you rightly said, on online teaching, we can't crowd a class, especially the junior level where the comprehension skills are still developing, the understanding is still happening. We have to make slots. Even for an orientation program, or even to talk to the children, an introductory session was done last time. Only 10 in a group was done for standard 1. So the 30 were divided into 3 sessions and the teachers took it. So if you want an effective class, we have to break it down. And let's not keep syllabus as our goal. This year we have to just forget about completion of syllabus or curriculum. whatever we are doing, it has to be done well. The quality matters. And like you rightly said, it's not a quantum. So we as educators must focus on those few lessons, but done well. And then everybody gets, and we should study the cross section of the class for that. Even my grouping will have to see, like Smita ma'am rightly said, if there are a group of children, especially we have children from the underprivileged group now already up to standard 7 and 8. So we have to keep that student population in mind, the constitution of the class, and must see that those children are also catered to. So we can't crowd a class at all. So that cross section of the class must be dealt with, and maybe remedial teaching, we are trying that. We have math teaching. I saw one question there. There is one teacher roped in only to do remedial teaching in math. So today we got the numbers from my coordinator that in standard 10 and standard 9, so many are there. So on Saturdays, we are planning that remedial coaching with the math teacher who's exclusively going to do that. So we have to group them. We have to see that we put them in groups where you have a right mix also. So we have interactions from children who grasp and children who don't. But then remedial or even doing it exclusively for those groups is important. We can't have more than 15, especially in the junior classes. But if you feel that the children are getting comfortable with online, slowly we could increase the numbers after a certain period of time.
Yeah. Coming to Madam Desai, if we say divide a class for online teaching, because the teacher mostly knows the students, and let's say she knows that, okay, these 10 are the ones who are going to grasp faster. These 10 are the average students, and these 10 are weaker students who need more teaching effort from my end. So let's say hypothetically we have 30 in a class, and we divide them on the basis of that, or we have 60 in a class and divide them into groups of 20. Do you think there will be an uproar from the parents end, where they will see that, you put our children in the weaker section, or you put our children in, and that, here we are talking of inclusion and, non-segregation. And, so, I mean, though we are doing it for the educational benefit of the child, but it may be taken otherwise,
Right. So I'm glad you asked that question, Avinash. And, what you spoke about, like, maybe putting them into different groups is what is known as your segregated ability classrooms. Okay. In reality also, there are some schools, they're not supposed to do it, but they actually have classrooms segregated as per the ability of the children. Okay. They also say that they do it so that it is easier to reach out to each group, and each group, benefits in a maximum way. But the research has shown that is absolutely not true. Okay, so on a regular basis, if you have heterogeneity, that means you have children of different ability in the classroom, they are going to learn from each other. Okay, and therefore, if you recall, what did I say about breakout rooms also? When I'm saying breakout rooms and you have children who have certain special education needs and you put them into these small groups where the teacher can attend to them, don't put only them in that breakout room. Have their peer buddies, have children who are also able to help them out, and remember that the children who help out these kids with the special education needs are going to actually maximize their own learning. We learn through teaching. Right? So when they help children who need that need the assistance, they themselves are going to learn, right? So these breakout rooms are something that is available on different platforms like Zoom and your Google Classrooms, and they allow you to do these small sections, okay? And in that, I would say don't just segregate as per ability, have them together, and yet have smaller groups so that we can reach out to individual needs. And in fact, this technology, because we are right now doing it through technology, it is an opportunity that is giving us. So the teacher can be doing these 2-3 classrooms at one time, which otherwise in a regular classroom is not possible, right? So this is allowing us. However, it's always good to mix up and to have children who can be very, very good helpers to their peers.
Right. Well, Saloni ma'am, question for you is that for the kindergarten group, what special methods have you all been using online to sort of engage them? And if for a general class something group activity has to be planned, how could that be done online?
So for example, see, there's for a kindergarten like this, the teacher has to be an actor. You have to really be. It's like a stage performance. So So one of our teachers actually did dress up as Old MacDonald, and so there was a suddenly she went off screen and she came as Old MacDonald, and she with bearded and all that. So for children suddenly to see that, there's a lot of excitement. So you're adding a lot of music, you're adding a lot of equipments. They are their names when they have to call out names. So their names, teachers not just calling out their names. The names come out of a wand kind of a thing. So that it's interesting for children to watch. Like I said, they are all watching videos already. So your videos have to be, your classrooms have to be as exciting and interesting for kindergartens for their attention. And regarding collaboration activities, so what we could do is, since in a flipped classroom model, you can give instructions. So I made pre-decided groups, and I have assigned children that this particular group is going to talk about, let's say, they are going to explain the causes of First World War, and the next group I assigned that they are going to share the effects of First World War. So you make children into groups and you give a detailed list of instruction. You share with them that this is the task assigned to their group, and they're expected to give a presentation, to the class in the next online module. So children have a good way. So after class time, they are actually interacting and collaborating with each other to make a presentation on this. And when they have to showcase technology, they are really up for it. So in the next class, you actually make them the teacher and you allow them to share their screen, and they actually teach you with the presentation that they've made, which is a very active way to get them absolutely engaged in the learning. So we've been trying that, which is working out very well, and children are responding very well to it. And we are learning a lot from them because they use tools that we haven't heard of. So I think that's how you can use collaboration, just the way you would use in a normal classroom. It's just that you have to let them know what they're supposed to be discussing, and give them a very clear, specific task which they would present in their next classes. I think that charges up the class a lot.
Right. Coming to our parent, Mrs. Buddha, well, this is again a parenting kind of question that, let's say you walk into the room and, your child is online, and the online class is going on, and you find that while the class is going on, he's, chatting away with his friends in the chat box. And of course, the teacher may not be aware that all this is happening. They may not be chatting anything out of the way. It may be something very benign or making fun of the teacher, too, which always happens in many classrooms.
During the class.
So, yes. So that is one. So what would be, your approach in that case? Or for that matter, if let's say, you find that you walk in and you find, and the child really says, ki I'm really feeling hungry and I want to eat something. And it's in the middle of the class, but then your motherly instincts and your so then what do you do? Chupke se unko side mein aap khana de dete ho, nahi dete ho, what is the way you go about things? Yeah.
So when there are times when I know they are actually hungry or they need a break when they've had a long hour, so of course their cameras are switched off, I can give them something to munch on. But otherwise, when I know it is just to distract themselves and they are just asking it out of, to break the routine or get distracted, they don't want to pay attention to the class, then I deny them that. As such, I am a very strict mom, so they can't get their way out with me most of the times. Right. And if they're chatting with their friends, no doubt, of course, I'll let that class be. And after that, I'll explain it to them that they're not supposed to do it and it is wrong. While in class, you can do it because their timetable has been very well made up. After every class, they're given 15 minutes of a break where they either have their own time, self-time, or a 15-minute break with their friends where they can chat online with friends. So when they've been given sufficient time for all activities, they should not be doing it at the wrong time.
Yeah, one more small question for you is, if, after the schooling is over, and then the child says, no, now I want the tab and the mobile to play my games because, that was school. That was not screen time, which was separate. So then, what are you going to tell them? No, you've been 6 hours online. They'll say, no, that was school. Now I want to, my 3 hours or 2 hours of gaming is a separate thing. So, so then how do you balance that?
Of course, I can't deny them that they need it as much as for their mental recreation as their physical, because now in this pandemic, they're not even allowed to go out and play. So there is not much of physical activity that can be done at home, like football and cricket cannot be done at home. So this is the only kind of entertainment or recreation that they have. Of course, not the all 2 hours, but I can give them that for 1 hour for play.
Correct.
I should be giving them that actually.
Right, right. Well, coming back to Sujata, ma'am, I have a question for you. And that is that, as a teacher who has, been with so much of experience over so many decades of teaching, do you think, will online education ever replace the chalk and the blackboard?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Right.
That personal touch will just vanish because the student-teacher relationship is of utmost importance, especially, in a country like ours. We mother the children more than anything. We are actually parenting the children. So we play that role back at school, so many hours they're with you, and it will never, never replace. Because slowly that personal connect will fade away. And if it is only a looking at making them literate, then it will work. But I don't know whether true education will ever happen, because where are the life skills? Nothing. The children are isolated in their own little rooms in front of laptops. And what else to look forward to? So slowly you're stunting their personality. In fact, all aspects of their personality. What about a child who's over energetic, a child who's so chirpy, and a child who needs friends to depend on or ask, share? All this doesn't happen. Life skills comes to a full stop. Whether it is a peer relationship or a student-teacher relationship or a teacher-teacher relationship, everything comes to a standstill. Let's all pray and hope that this doesn't become permanent at all. It's only a temporary thing, and this phase will pass too, and then we will get back to our schools and make our schools, haven for them all over again. Yes.
Right. Well,
Very
Saloni,
well said.
yes, ma'am. Very well said. Saloni, ma'am, question for you is that in case, when you're in an online classroom, now, when you're with smaller children, say second standard and below, there will always be this thing, I want to go for susu, I want to go and drink water, I want to go and do this. So, so you will have, and it even happens with the older children. See, in the classroom, you have that control, don't get up, don't go, you can't go anywhere, you don't move out of your bench. Here, I mean, physically you can't do anything in the screen to go and catch them and tell them, and they might just leave the screen and go. So, then what do you think should be the approach of teachers, in such cases?
No, I think a sensible teacher, a sensitive teacher would always know. And in regular classrooms also, you don't really stop children.
True.
But I would say that, okay, I've started the class, guys. Anybody wants to go to the washroom? Why don't you go quickly and come back? So I would probably give them moments in the beginning of my class so that they can go and come back so that we can have an uninterrupted session. Having said that, children have to go. Right now, they very well know themselves how to keep their video off and go. They can go and come back. So you can't do anything. Unless you really see a pattern with some child who is really trying to miss, you would need to get in touch with the parent and probably get the parent, involved to make sure that it's not happening as a habit.
Yeah. As a section coordinator, another small question. I mean, I will tell you an incident that's happened in one of the schools that I know, where this teacher has, she has a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. So she, brought the 2-year-old daughter into the online class for just 2 minutes, to tell the children, see, this is my daughter, and this is this. And the children were all very happy, to see the daughter. But then what happened was, there were a group of parents who made an issue out of it unnecessarily, that there was no need for her to do this and no need to do that and whatever. And I don't think she took away any time from her classroom, maybe hardly 2 or 3 minutes, which anyway could have gone in any direction. So, and the whole aim was, I think she also probably, the daughter was crying for her, or there was something like that. So the daughter also came in, saw the screen and was happy. Now my question to you here is that, on one hand, we have this whole humane aspect, which, is there, which will happen. And, do you think like there is this code of conduct that you all, have designed for teachers, that you say, okay, when you're doing online classes, you all have to be seated properly, you all have to be away from your family, you'll have to be this, and there should be no interruptions by your family, when you're teaching online. So, but interruptions will happen. I mean, I'm just taking 1 minute more. Like I remember a teacher was teaching, and her old father, who's 80 plus, walked in and said, can you open this jar for me? Now, these are small things that happen in a house. They're not disrupting the class, but they're small things. So, what would be your take on this?
See, I think as far as there is a code of conduct in this kind of a scenario for everybody. There's a code of conduct for teachers. There's a code of conduct for parents. We've had classes where you see parent is, mopping and sweeping behind the child, or a parent is undressing. So you have a code of conduct. So we have to kind of follow that for everybody, even for children. And having a code of conduct is just one way. After that, like you said, your humane aspect has to be there. I mean, you want to make an issue, you can make an issue out of anything. You really don't need a reason for that. So, but as long as you understand, and people who are sensible, I think as long as you're maintaining the code of conduct, you know that I should be dressed up properly. I should not be having a noisy home in my class. I should think. So I think as long as that's followed on most of the time, we should be pretty okay. And I think everybody needs to understand that a 2-year child crying, suddenly, I mean, it must be a situation where nobody could have helped. That's why it happened. So I think we as parents, as human beings, need to understand that it's okay. We don't need to talk about it. That's like a small talk we can really do on anything. You don't need a reason. So I think that's something that we shouldn't really encourage, or I really don't know what to say about that. That's something that's so trivial that needn't be spoken or given any attention to. There is a code of conduct that's maintained, that's specified for every teacher and for children and for parents as well, because you have to maintain that kind of a decorum for sanctity to prevail.
Right. Coming to our parent, I have a very important question for Mrs. Buddha. And the question here is, and I'm saying this more not only from your aspect where you mentioned that you have 2 adults who are also working with the child in the same room. It happens in many houses. Even when my child is having online school, it starts at around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. And invariably for the first 3 or 4 hours, I'm also, sitting with, say, my laptop or device next to the child, so that if he needs anything, I'm there and I'm doing my own work. So the tendency for us to peep into each other's devices, are there. So, and I'll tell him, what are you doing? So he'll tell me, you're also just, doing some time pass, you're not working and this and that. So, do these kinds of, fights happen? And my question here is that, having other people working on other devices, does that serve as a distraction at times, rather than being primarily, because let's say something nice comes, it's out of natural tendency, I may want to tell him, come here, see this, rather than, that way. It can happen without, I'll tell him by 1 minute coming from there, nothing is going to happen, come here, that way. So these things do happen. So your take on that as a parent?
I don't think there's any such big issue about if the people, as far as they're paying attention to what's happening in their class. But now here, my child was having an remedial session himself from 4 to 6, and this webinar started at 5. So as soon as he finished, and he's telling, Mama, is your camera on? Can I come and peep? Can you give me the headphone? Can I listen to what Smita ma'am has to say? So I was like, okay, here you are. You can listen to it. As far as my camera is not on and you're not disturbing the webinar, you can please go ahead and listen. So that's how it is. They are absolutely welcome.
Yes. Question to Desai ma'am is that if you have parents who are working outside the house, and there are children who have online classes and they are older parents at home who are managing them, sadly, how do you monitor? How do you monitor? What would be your tips? I know it's a tough question, but how would you monitor?
Okay, so if I understand it right, what you're saying is that there might be parents who are essential care workers, etc., who might be stepping out, right?
Right.
That's what you mean. And the kids are at home and they've got to manage their own online stuff and stuff like that, So in fact, I have had a couple of parents who have spoken to me about this, Avinash, and they are often concerned whether, their online classes are going on all right for the kids. So when we spoke about this, my one suggestion was, and which they've carried out and got back to me that it's working very well for them, is that they are interacting particularly well with the teacher, okay, letting them know that we are essential care workers, we have to step out, and yet we are concerned about this. So can you just please put a red flag, yellow flag, so that, the interaction, so that once in a while, you're interacting a little more with this child, or asking back for work, or asking the child to kind of dock in with you once in a while. Okay, so that teacher interaction and letting the teacher know what your situation at home is, why is it that you have to be getting out to work, I think that has worked very well. And in fact, what they've said is that the teacher also has been very open and happy that the parent has confided in them and is looking up to them for this kind of help. So that's something which has come from the parent that is working very well. What they've said also, on the other hand, is like, suppose there have been grandparents at home. Sometimes, in fact, the grandparents may not fully understand the sanctity of the situation, and they may step into the class for the child. So sometimes that has been happening. But I think for that, and this is what I've spoken to the parents, is that, these are now a part of your landscape, okay, that's going to happen. There's only so much that we can have control over. Once you step out of the house, there is a large part of the control that you could have had that you are losing sight of. So you do what you can in terms of the teacher-child interaction. Speak to the older parents. But apart from that, like Saloni said, there are some things which are going to happen. We take it as a part of our human interaction and leave it over there.
Right. I will have this question which I'm going to put to all four of you all, and I start with Sujata ma'am. What does one do in a household where I have 3 or 4 children and all have online classes, and we have few gadgets, so we don't have 10 laptops, so and all 4 have classes at the same time. So one is in the 4th, one is in the 6th, one is in the 8th, one is in the 12th, and all are having online classes at the same time, and all 4 of them don't have their laptops. Plus my husband needs his laptop for his office work at the same time. So either they will all be straining on phones, which is also not good. Again, we don't have 6 or 8 phones to use. So what does a family like that do? And now in the lockdown, they can't go and buy a phone or a laptop either. So what do they do? And they can't afford to do it either. So what do they do?
So far, the challenge of 4 children in a house, seeking devices.
I will bring it down to 2 children. I'll bring it down to 2 children. No problem.
If and back.
I'll bring it down to 2 children. Yeah.
Yes. This question did arise even in our teachers' meetings. How will we cope with 2 siblings, both in the preschool or both in the primary, and both are young and dealing? So we reached out to parents too and said if they could adjust their work time. See, supposing a parent could adjust their working hours, because they are also working from home in such a way that the child's priority is given at that point of time, and if the child's classes are over, and then they are able to work, because the parents can work even late hours and make up. But for a child, it's important that when the school hours are there, the child should be glued to the screen and things like that. So either that, and there are occasions where parents approached us that we don't have a device at home, we don't have a laptop, maybe not even a smartphone, and the teachers have made videos, they have made notes, and sometimes they're coming and collecting it from school, from the security. We have compiled notes for such parents. Again, I'm talking about the underprivileged groups, which have maybe 1 phone and everybody sharing. So we have made alternatives such as videos and lessons, and even printed notes for such children, and where we could help. And we are planning to, once school opens, to help them in case the children are still carrying the baggage of doubts and things like that. So these are there, these fears are lurking in our minds. When the school physically opens, how uneven the class is going to be. How many of them are with us and how many of them have lost out? And that is another huge challenge, and we have to mentally prepare for that. We are expecting this when they come back. We can't have tests and exams when they come back.
Right.
When they come back, first is to identify how the class is prepared, the preparedness, and how many of them are really totally a blank in certain topics or subjects because they were not able to grasp, were not able to pay attention, they didn't have the wherewithals, and we have to first bridge the gap and then carry.
Yes.
We anticipate that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Saloni ma'am, your quick take on this.
I think, because we anticipate this problem, and thank God we are not in the used to be 5-6 children. Right now it's only 2. But since as a school which cares, when we anticipate this, we've already made sure that our timetable is not clashing. So our high school and middle school work from 9 to 12, our primary works from 2 to 5, and our pre-primary is in the afternoon. So we've tried to make sure that, we've staggered the times in such a way that there are minimum clashes. Having said that, there are some places, some issues where where parent has to go on a phone, and a lot of parents, like Sujata ma'am said, have made around their work times at work, so that they have ensured that the device is free.
Yeah.
I think everybody has to just make with the best of this, make use the situation in the best possible way.
Mrs. Buddha, anything you want to say in this regard about more children and less devices? I mean, in your case, I know it's not a problem, but have you had parents who complained to you or said anything like this?
No, I've heard about friends who have this complaint, who are residing in places where the internet connection are also not very good, and they all are facing problem with online sessions. Now here it is always priority basis. You have to prioritize things with members of the family. If there are children in this, all school going age, you have to prioritize about subjects and online sessions. Which child needs to take up which subject online first, and that is how I guess gadgets should be shared.
Yeah. Desai ma'am, your take, last 1 minute. Your
Yes. Yes. So I think this outlines for us the presence of the digital divide. Although we say that everyone has a phone now, even in the rural areas, etc., but when there is more than one device that is being asked to use, then it definitely brings up the issue of digital divide. But here again, I say it is simply mimicking the regular scenario in society, right? Those who do not have these devices are also the ones who have fewer social and economic resources in regular life also. So I think it is the same situation, and as it is coming to the forefront now, it is making us aware of it. I think it is a lesson for us to all take back and say, hey, it's happening in their homes even otherwise. And how can we probably all stretch ourselves out, all hold hands, all network, so that we can, one, get through this difficult phase together, have that mantra that this too shall pass, and when we go forward with some important learnings from each of our own perspectives.
Well, it's been an amazing session, and I think we've had some amazing insights. We've practically covered all the questions that people have asked. Few things on the lighter side that I want to say is, as a parent and as a psychiatrist, I've had a son who's had online teaching in the 7th standard. So, I have seen all the nitty-gritties of, this happen, the initial teething problems, and the school has overcome all of them, and they're doing fantastically well now. Few things I want to tell people on the chat. I mean, a lot of people have been worried about paying for your certificate. Don't worry, Drishti will make sure that all of you get your certificate. So don't worry about that at all. The interaction was far more important. I think the certificate will definitely reach you. A number of people who had their videos on were having tea, biscuits, pakoras, and a lot of other things. Like we were, unfortunately not able to do that because we were on the panel. So we are very jealous of you. But nevertheless, we are happy that you could enjoy yourself and enjoy the session. We've had a maximum count of over 170 plus. I mean, we still have, I think, 130 odd who've been with us right now. So which has been amazing. I'm very thankful to Drishti and Prabhav for doing this with D'Souza Foundation, and we've done this collaboratively, and it's been an amazing session. Madam Mohandas, it's been amazing having your insights. Saloni ma'am, it's been amazing having your insights. Mrs. Buddha, as a parent, yes, I mean, I empathize with you as a parent, so I know where you're coming from. Your insights were wonderful. Desai ma'am, as usual, of course, you've always added, your touch to the session. So I just want to say thank you to each one of you. God bless you all. Stay safe, and I think I will now hand over to Drishti to finish our proceedings.
I would also like to thank you, Avinash. I think you conducted a wonderful session, and thank you very much, Ms. Sujata. Wonderful to see you and have you with us. Saloni, I'm so glad you could make it with us. And Ghazala, as usual, always a pleasure to interact with you. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone on the participants group. I think we had some wonderful questions. I do hope we've been able to reach out and interact with all of you, and we look forward to everyone.